Hey, what's up plant peeps? It's Dustin from Here But Not. Today I want to do a walkthrough of some of the orchids that I have in bloom. I've got a whole bunch of Phalaenopsis kind of opening up right now because it's summer. So I'm going to walk you through some of those as well as some new plants and things that I've got on the go. So let's check it out. For the flask that I had deflasked a couple years ago, and I was talking in my last video about all of the phals that I have that are finally blooming, well, I have at least 5 now that have opened. I'm still waiting on the other ones to finish their spikes, but I figured that I would show these off because I don't know how long it's going to be until the other ones open up, and these may not last until then. So these are the Phalaenopsis Kingfisher Lemondrop. And there's one more hiding in behind here. And it's pretty sweet because the colors on these, even though they're all the same hybrid, are like fairly different. The one on the right's white, the one in the front is yellow, the one in the back is green, and then the one on the left is pink, and the one kind of to the side there is kind of like a yellowy green, and it's got good color in the center, whereas these ones have more of like a white center. So super awesome, very happy about the outcome of these. I was hoping that picking my favorites would be easier. So far, out of the ones that have bloomed, I am having a hard time like picking ones that aren't my favorite. Probably the yellow one in the front is my least favorite, I guess, because it kind of has traits that they all have blended together. Surprisingly, I really like this white one on the right-hand side because it's got like a huge flower, and it's like, it looks kind of cream right now, but it's nearly fully white. And then the green one in the middle has 3 flowers for its first blooming, which is pretty crazy. So we'll carry on with some of the other flowers that I have in bloom. These two are super closely related. It's a hybrid between Violacea and Venosa. The one on the left is Phalaenopsis Pending Girl, and that is 50% Violacea, 50% Venosa. And the one on the right is Phalaenopsis Matthewchen, which is 3/4 Violacea and 25% Venosa. What's actually kind of sweet about this Matthewchen Phalaenopsis is that it's 50% Violacea HP Norton or Indigo, so it's supposed to be more saturated, which is why you see this kind of like pastel colors that are less common in Phalaenopsis, especially the orange tones. And then it's also, this is one of the parents. Now this just opened, so I expect that the form will continue to improve, but it's a really amazing flower. And unfortunately, the original, like the person who line bred these, HP Norton, actually passed away yesterday. So it's like a little sad, but also poetic, I guess, and really nice looking flower on this. This is another Phalaenopsis Violacea Indigo hybrid, and this one is with Paulterima, and the colors on this are insane. The only thing, like, I love this plant, and I've talked about it before. When I first bought it, it had 3 lips on a couple of the flowers. And this year, I'm not sure what like triggered this, but many of the flowers have those 3 lips. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not super happy about that, but whatever, the color is literally insane. Like if I back up, it pops out of all the plants on the table, it's like super bright. The flower to the right is Phalaenopsis Memoria Valretic, I think is how you say it. It's 3/4 Paulterima, 1/4 Parishii, but it mostly looks like Phalaenopsis Paulterima. So basically, if you take this plant and you cross it with this plant, you kind of get this one, kind of. It's not that clean, but you can see how the blending of the like looks of those plants kind of result in that. So it's pretty cool. And then one other phal that's in bloom is this Alba Ballina, which looks like remarkably similar to these ones, considering they're not related nearly at all. But super cool plant, lots of blooms. I love how the petals kind of have that like flame look to it. This is the first set of flasks that I started in the winter, and I had replated probably about 3 to 4 weeks ago. They've taken off with growth. Surprising, I'm like super surprised at how well they're growing. I suspect I'll probably be able to deflask some of these by winter. So what I'll do is probably replate the smaller ones and then just pull the bigger ones out. And another like project that I have on the go, these are Mexipediums, which I don't know if you've ever seen them before. They're kind of like a Phragmipedium. I had read maybe that they were reclassified as Phragmipediums. At any rate, they're a tiny little plant. They get bigger than what these are, but they make little white flowers that kind of have like a fuzzy look to them, and they're quite rare. I believe that they're extinct in their natural habitat because there was a forest fire and it destroyed their habitat. So there were 7 plants, I believe, collected at one point way back in the day. And so now the plants that are in cultivation are the only plants that exist. And I managed to get a Flask and split it with a buddy of mine in Edmonton. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this is gonna go. They're already growing. I'm not gonna lie, super excited about this because it's one of those things that, like, these plants are expensive normally. If you want to buy them, they're anywhere from like 100 to 250 bucks per plant. And so getting a Flask is an easier way to get a hold of them, provided you can keep them alive. This is my Phragnipedium rolfianum, I think is how you say it. It's a natural hybrid between longifolium and Herritzii. I'd shown it in a previous video and it finally bloomed and bloomed like quite well. I got 2 spikes on a single plant, and then there's probably 4 or 5 new growths starting. So happy to say this plant is doing very well and it's liking the condition. This is Bulbophyllum Trishy, I believe is how you say it. Kind of looks like an octopus. It doesn't smell. I don't know if it's supposed to or not, but I haven't noticed a fragrance on it yet. I do think it's a pretty cool looking plant. I got it because it looks like an octopus. And considering it's supposed to be a cold grower and that it's supposed to have super high humidity, it's doing pretty well in my Canadian dry and cool climate, like temperately cool climate. I want to talk really quickly about the jewel orchids, and then I'll close it out with the aroids at the end. So I picked up a Codys Sanderiana here, which I've always wanted. They're kind of a lot like the Codys Petola, but they have more red in the leaf, and you can see that. And it looks like it's establishing. It's got a second new leaf starting. This leaf was also new after I got it. It was a really small plant, and so I didn't make a video right off the get up. Plus, I wasn't available to, like, I was traveling, so I couldn't do that. The Codys Sanderiana, or the Codys Petola that I got last year, that I had said, you know, I don't think it should go in a terrarium, and I'll see how it goes growing just in my place, has done really well. The ones on the left, I had taken a bunch of cuttings and it wasn't doing as well. So I put them all together into one pot. And then the one on the right, I had tried not to take any cuttings just so that I could get a specimen going. And really my goal for these is to grow them up, get a really good, like, large group of plants, try and get them into flower, and then grow a few from seed, because I know that a lot of people really want these plants and they're great. And if you see them available, you should absolutely get one because they're awesome, but they're also not very commonly available. So what I want to try and do is breed them from seed and then try and sell those, or, you know, trade or whatever. Okay, and then the last thing that I have been so excited about, I think that orchids have kind of filled this space where I did a whole bunch of research and I kind of know my bases, and so I love my orchids, but they're not as interesting at the base value because I don't go through this like surge of research. So with these new aroids, I have renewed passion or interest, and it's been really cool to kind of like trying to find out where they're from and what conditions they like, because there's not a lot of information online. And so I have to Google the species name, then look up where they're from, and then I go and look at the weather in the area. Plus I've been scouring like Instagram and YouTube and literally anywhere that I can find information on the individual species, because they're pretty rare, not a lot of people carry them. And the ones, like, there's like always that gap of perceived knowledge and understanding versus like actual care and culture and how you do well with them. I know that some of them look really ratty. This is the Queen Anthurium. I lost half of a leaf. I went to Seattle, and while I was there, I had put this in the front window where it was too warm and it did not get enough water. So when I came back, it was limp and nearly dead. But I've put it in a cooler place in the house with still bright light, but not in direct sunlight. and and I've been watering it a lot more. The Anthurium on the right is Anthurium Clare. I don't know, I'll put the name on the screen. Literally can't get it. This one came in the worst condition. You can see it's got some like major leaf burn. It does have new roots starting, so I'm feeling optimistic about the overall like well-being of this plant. It also comes from an area of like Mexico and Central America that experiences like pretty like severe dry season. So I'm thinking that of all the plants, it's probably going to do the best here, but we'll see. Maybe I'll end up killing them all and I'll just eat my words. The one on the left is Anthurium forgetii. It came with like a little tiny plantlet of something, which is maybe another clarinervium. I don't know, we'll see. The one behind it was supposed to be Philodendron Vericosum. It's not the classic verrucosum. Apparently there's like a red phase. Some people have said it looks like a hybrid. Some people said there's a red phase. I don't really know. I really like the leaves. I think it looks awesome. Verrucosum is supposed to have really hairy like stems, and this is sort of hairy, like it's bumpy, but it definitely makes me think that it's probably a hybrid or maybe just a different species altogether. Who knows? I'm not a taxonomist. I don't really care. Plant looks great. I haven't seen any new root growth on that one, so we will see how that goes. The plant on the left is Philodendron melanochrysum. It's supposed to get these giant leaves, like they can get up to 3 feet long, and they get really like deep and beautiful dark green with these lines. I've been growing it like in relatively bright light, like it's at my east facing window under my LED lights as well. Lots of new root growth on this one. My biggest hope is that all of these establish and like root growth is like step one. Same with my orchids. New roots, good sign. And then the next one is whether or not a leaf can be produced and look as good as the other leaves. Maybe not in the case of this one. So super excited about these. They make really good orchid like companions, I guess, just because the like leaves look a little bit more interesting. They fit well with the orchid like genre and just that jungly look, right? Like Aroids kind of bring this really authentic, like you're in the jungle now. So that's pretty much the update. I just wanted to make sure that I kind of gave you a quick overview of what's there. So thanks for tagging along. I hope things are going well with you. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. When I did the flasking of dry seeds, I didn't look at the date of when I sowed that orchid seed pod, and the seed pod is 124 days old. And normally for dry seed, they should be about 200 to 220 days old. So I'm a little bit concerned that the seeds may not be viable. The process that I went through to sow them is still exactly how I would do it. But I'm not going to consider it a fail if the seeds don't germinate. I think that's probably going to be more a function of the fact that the seeds just don't have viable embryos in them. So thanks for tagging along. Clyde, say bye. He's trying to get away. Anyways, thanks for tagging along. We'll catch up soon, and I hope things are going well with your plants and your life and all of those things. Ciao.